Welcome back. I'm Kanza Azeemi, and today I am joined by Dr. Wid Kattan, a psychiatrist, an educator, and an author whose work sits at the intersection of Islam, psychology, and women's well being. She focuses especially on motherhood, identity, and mental health. And I love how her work brings together faith, psychology, and lived experience in such a thoughtful and grounded way. Today, we'll be talking about motherhood and parenting, the joys, the challenges, and the deeper meaning behind raising children in today's world. Dr. Wait, welcome. It is wonderful to have you with us.
It's a pleasure to be here, Kanza. Thank you so much for inviting me onto your podcast.
You work at the intersection of Islam, psychology, and women. What does that mean?
That's right. I have the privilege of working in that kind of really nice part of that Venn diagram of three things I'm passionate about. What it means is I think I'm a spiritual person, but I believe we're all kind of spirits having a human experience. So I've always been kind of seeking, curious mostly about humans, about life, and how to live well. So I remember from being a teenager, I was drawn to books like The Seven Habits of Highly Effective Teens and the self help spirituality. And I was always drawn to religious studies from school growing up. And then, so it's kind of the same thing that leads me to loving poetry, again, humans and life, and also leads me to medicine and psychiatry. So that's my trajectory: a medicine and surgery, and then psychiatry residency, and then being a woman and a mother. And I've had experiences such as burnout and postpartum depression naturally. And also, like, I'm surrounded by many friends and sisters. Women's mental health became an interest for me. So that's my fellowship and subspecialty, which I did in Canada. All of that has been great, but for me personally, the spiritual side was very personal, but it didn't flow into my academic and professional work because our training is very Western. Like, even my study of medicine that was in Saudi was in English, and it's a very biological, mechanistic, modern medicine model. Same in Canada when I did psychiatry and women's mental health, although cultural psychiatry was blooming. Now, the truth is actually, in psychiatry, religion and spirituality are there in all of the guidelines, but not really translated into practice and training. So, did what I could, but parallel paths, spiritual in my personal life, kind of medical and mechanistic in my professional, because you don't want to cross any boundaries. However, as I became more senior in my specialties, I realized, oh, cultural psychiatry is a thing. Spirituality and religiosity is there in all of the guidelines to take this into account, to meet people where they are. And finally, Islamic psychology. So, how I came about to do that at Cambridge Muslim College, so approximately 9 months to 1 year diploma, was I was in a burnout. Okay, I had been on call for like 7 weeks in a row in the summer. And being on call in psychiatry involves seeing a lot of hospitalized patients, and they're hospitalized for medical things, post surgery, insomnia, depression while on the ward dealing with cancer, and was so heavily based on medicine. I couldn't treat them with other things just because of the pressure of the work. So I burnt out naturally, or naturally for me. I mean, it made sense. And I was just seeking something. And someone told me, have you heard about Islamic psychology? And I said, huh? What? Come again? And so I discovered Professor Malik Badri, may God rest his soul, Allah yarhamu, and Dr. Abdullah Rothman. And, arriving at the Islamic psychology diploma was really like this very satisfying clicking into place of a missing piece. And not just for me, but the orientation when I saw people from all over the world, like from Australia to California, and all of us mental health professionals in psychology or psychiatry, different nationalities, different experiences with Islam and upbringing, and kind of like, thank God, I'm not crazy. This was missing. And since then, I've become much more confident and bold in integrating, so the mental health, physical psychiatry part, spiritual, um, while maintaining safety and cultural sensitivity. Like, I will, like, we're never going to impose religiosity on anyone. But if this person is Muslim and I'm Muslim and she's lost her son and she wants to talk about being angry with God about this is welcome in the office. I don't shy away from it, or Islamic psychology doesn't shy away from it. So, longer answer than I intended, but I get excited with the specialty.
Of course, no, it is exciting, and thank you for creating that safe container that has spirituality and religiosity in it. I am sure your practice has really been enriched since after your Cambridge Muslim College diploma. You have also written a book, Dr. Wade, called
Yes.
So Many Hats. And in that book, you talk about identity, what
Mhm.
each identity means, and how to integrate them. Could you walk us through the seven identities that you talk about? And maybe what is your one key takeaway from each of them?
Well, thank you for bringing that up. So, this book is kind of one of my babies. I just felt I was writing poems for a few years, and one day I saw their structure. It was a work of integration for me. So, this is it. So many hats or veils. By veils, I mean this veil or the hijab, because it's like being a Muslim is one of the hats I wear. The hats represent different roles. So I feel that for humans in general, and for women more specifically, perhaps in these times, this work of integration of being more than one thing. Okay, like how can I be, for example, I have a human individual, because being raised in a collective society, sometimes you need the work of carving out your own authentic space and voice. Writer, woman, mother, romantic, and Muslim. But put those two together, like, it doesn't really fit into a box to be romantic and be a traditional Muslim good woman in the sense that we are raised. So, in the introduction, like one of my favorite quotes is this one by someone called Terence. I am human, and nothing of that which is human is alien to me. So, any human experience, no matter how dark, there is a seed in us, but maybe it's been manifest or not. So let's see. For example, for the human chapter, I have this poem called Windows. Underneath all my hats, my eyes, they stay the same. Windows into my soul. That's who I am. I am not any of my hats or roles, just another kindred soul. And this was really needed. Like, for example, when I was in Canada, working at the Jewish General Hospital that served mostly Jewish population, but that was open for everyone. And there would be like an Orthodox Jewish woman coming to the women's mental health clinic asking my Jewish supervisor, how is this woman going to be my doctor? And therapist, moreover. It was very heavy, but also quite satisfying to like literally watch the veil between us fall. But you need time. So while taking the history, while showing empathy, while she has sat with me for an hour and witnessed that I don't judge her for the obsessive intrusive thoughts she has of dropping the baby, uh, she feels safe, and then we forget. The world falls away, and then her wig and my hijab, these roles, fall away, and we're just, so what's happening? We are both mothers and women and human. خلاص. If you connect with any person, so we're all multifaceted in our identity, you just need to connect on one, like like two diamonds, like shining just one facet across the other. And that's all you need for an interaction to become transformational, not transactional. So I don't
That is so
know.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was the experiences that you got out of it are reflected in the human side or the human chapter of
Yeah.
your book.
Yeah.
What is
Yes.
another identity after human?
So let's see what comes up. So motherhood, one of the toughest really for me. I have a poem I can read that represents it. So it's called Growing into Motherhood. Okay. And it has this picture. It's a woman in a huge sweater. Okay.
Uh huh.
So uh, motherhood was a cozy, loose red sweater that was just too big for me. The sleeves were too long. I couldn't hold all I needed to hold. I kept dropping things and tripping over the dragging hem. I wanted to take it off, to be me again, to be pretty again, to be free again, untethered. But you held on, little one, not caring about my flaws, my tousled hair, my fluffy skin, my double chin. You had eyes only for me. You looked up so adoringly. In your eyes, I could do no wrong. So for your puppy brown eyes, I rolled up my sleeves and grew stronger and grew into this motherhood sweater until it fit perfectly, almost. It became my skin, which you breathe in day out and day in. So just, acknowledging we grow up with our children. We're not finished products, yani. And for the Islamic kind of psychology uh, gives a lot of mercy, I think. Like, I'm much more comfortable as a mom now, not because I'm better, but because like it was Allah's decision that
Mm.
children be raised by children, kind of. So I tell my kids, like, listen, when we were in Alam al-Dhar, which is where the souls were, I just slipped down like a few minutes before you. I tried to draw a map and get some orientation, but I don't know that much more. And you just we're walking together for most of it. And
Mm.
so I tell them, like, we are souls playing roles. I happen to be your mom role, but in Allah's eyes, what's the difference between 40 and 4 years old?
That is such a refreshing take on modern parenting, where the parents, particularly the mother, is almost supposed to have it all figured out. There is so much more that I want to ask in the motherhood role, but I realize that most of our conversation will be about that. So I do want to talk about what is the next role in this book.
Okay. So, writer, I think all of us sometimes have this imposter syndrome of, am I a real writer? Am I a real artist? Do you write? That's kind of the question. So, I was trying to work through that identity to say, I am a writer. Okay.
Mm.
Um, and so it just has some of my poems here to say, I am a writer. Well, this one actually is about being a resident. Residents in medicine are called residents because we reside in the hospital. Okay. And funnily enough, in all of the roles, I did not put doctor or resident because I needed to shake it off of me while writing the book because it was the thing I was residing in all the time. But it's a funny one. So the writer, this is a representative. It's called Resident. Okay. And it's called, the poem is lub dub. That's what we call the heart sounds. Lub dub, put on your scrubs. Show up on your very first day. You're a resident now, so pretend you know the items on the surgical tray. Better suck it up, better show up and smile and practice your no problem face. Better hold your ground and never make a sound and show no fear, not a trace. Your pager's going off, heart jamming up your throat. It's happening, your first code blue. You're it, you're on. Get your act together now. Someone's life is depending on you. One day you'll look back, wonder how you did it all, recall helping hands on the way. So please extend your own to the next R1 you meet when they too freak on their very first day. Congratulations for making it. You are a superstar, and I never doubted you for a moment. So That's the writer's chapters. This is full of poems that can't really be categorized in other places.
Could this
Um,
be the professional side?
Maybe, but it's an interesting omission in the 7 chapters. Like, I don't even want to talk about being a doctor here. I need to cultivate, and this is a child of that era. So this was 2016 to 2020. Right now, this wouldn't be the book I write, you know. But that's what I needed at the time.
I love it. And I could, while you were reading that, I could feel the stress of the first few days and the stress of the emergency room, for example. And I love how it ends with gratitude and then extending a helping hand to others.
Yes. So I don't know why I'm answering your question by reading poems from each one, but it feels like a way to represent each chapter. Would you like me like to carry on?
I love that. Yes. Yes, and these are
Okay.
beautiful poems. I'm curious, what is the next role in this book?
So we have the romantic.
Mhm.
Here's a, it's also a light one. It has a little heart jumping, and it's inspired from Jack Be Nimble. So it's heart be nimble, heart be quick, heart don't break, heart don't be tricked. Be ever so careful, heed all the above. They say all is fair in war and in love. Don't slip, don't trip, and most important of all, whatever you do, please, please don't fall. So, about the woes of falling in love. Sometimes the heart beats so fast that it beats the mind. And I have like an EKG of the heart and brain waves. So you
Of
can
course
see
you
the
do.
heart goes faster. Woman, we have the woman role, which
Right.
I really, at this age, didn't know that much in that role because we live in a very masculine world without realizing it. Like, you don't realize that the air you breathe could be polluted until you go to the mountains. So it's very, really primitive, the woman chapter. I'm still growing into it. But here, I have one called Real Face. It's about aging, and we have a woman here with her wrinkles. Her frown lines spelled compassion, her crow's feet always smiled, her gray hair reflected the light and her wisdom. Such beauty in her real face. It was a face to trust and come home to.
Wow. These are such beautiful poems.
I mean, they came from the heart, so
Yeah.
it's
And you talk about still growing into that role
yeah.
of a woman. I find it really interesting how you say that on the women's chapter and not on the motherhood chapter.
The face, because I guess I think women and youth and beauty have been like so marinated together that an aging woman, the appreciation of the elder, of the archetype of the crone, we just want the maiden, the beautiful, like Sleeping Beauty, Snow White. Like, look at our media, it's all about young people. And then we want the mother. Okay, yes, be reproductive. And then, only, I was reading yesterday, only 6 species have menopause and live for 40 years or more after reproduction ends.
Interesting.
Uh, 5 of them are whales, and all of them, their pods are led by the matriarch. So the sixth is the human. So human and 5 types of whales. And so one way to frame it is the woman who becomes an elder. Nature is saying to them, evolution. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who created evolution, saying, we're going to give you a role for survival that is more valuable than having more babies. So we're going to pause that so you don't die in childbirth and you're no longer distracted, and give you something else. And you're going to live on for 4 or 5 decades. What is that something else? Leadership, keeping the stories,
Mhm.
education, teaching. And like in the whales, who have been studied possibly more than the humans here, the survival of the grandchildren is more than 4 times increased when that grandchild's grandmother is alive. So the
Oh, really?
grandmother is uh she had like her impact is big because it's for all of her children and the grandchildren, and she's not busy reproducing. And they found that if the mother and daughter are both reproducing, then both of their children suffer. There you go.
Oh,
So I'm just
wow.
saying.
And these
So
are these
these
are
are what
matriarchal systems.
matriarchal systems, yeah. So they know how where to find the salmon, especially when it's very hard to find the salmon. And so their tribes, with time, have genetically more and more and more material close to the grandmother because they stay with her. And the males go for a
Mm.
while to mate and come back. So so I don't know, maybe even now, like again in 2020, when I was younger, maybe I wouldn't have looked at that one. It's the last chapter, poem in that chapter of Woman. But now it's really intriguing to me. Yeah, what happens now that the wrinkles show up in our 40s? What's the rest of my life supposed to be like if everything that was celebrated was your youth and your beauty and your motherhood? Okay, now they're graduating.
Yeah, what's important now? And
Right.
and somehow it goes back. Of course, all of these chapters are interrelated, right? But I feel now this women's chapter, beyond the youth and the beauty and motherhood, is very much connected to the individual that we talked about, which was the second chapter, right?
Yes. So for individual, I think what I meant was like we all have a fingerprint or a basma or a disposition. And, very individualistic societies celebrate that way too much at the cost of
Mm.
the even the couple. Like we can't even become couples anymore, let alone societies and communities. And sometimes other places, no, the community and collectivist thinking obliterates the will of the individual. So, for example, I have an individual that, just honoring that I'm an introvert, okay, because we celebrate the extroverts more, although a third to two-thirds of people are introverts. So I have, in defense of introverts, I have three poems, four. The first one is, well, let's not go into all of them, but one reason I hate big parties, I'm too aware of all the heartbeats in the room, and I like to listen to hearts one at a time. Why do I need so much space to spread out the worlds enfolded inside me? Why do I need so much time to distill these worlds into words for you? I retreat to solitude not because I do not care, but because I care so much. So, like here in Saudi, people don't like to say, I'm leaving the party early, or,
Mm.
I went out yesterday, so I just can't today.
Yeah.
But you need to honor your own like abilities and nervous system, and your most important tool is yourself. And as a psychiatrist, oh my god, like if I was a surgeon, I guess I could be rude a little bit if my hands are very skilled and my nurse can appease my patients, but you cannot be a rude burnt out psychiatrist. you you
No.
have to be kind. Like this is the tool. Your heart and mind are the tool. So I think we've covered most chapters.
Yeah, what is the
Yes,
last chapter?
it's the Muslim, and I left it to
Mm.
the end deliberately because for an international audience or non-Muslim audience, it's the hardest, I think, to swallow because people have like I in Canada, I felt people all they saw is the veil. It's like they can't see human, woman. So there's a lot actually about the veil here. Okay. So let's go. This is the last one. If
Okay.
Islam should speak, that's what it's titled. I think Islam might say, okay, if Islam should speak, there are things you don't know about me, like how my name is pronounced. The S in Islam does not sound like the S in is. You know how they say Islam?
Mhm.
It's soft, like in soft. And the L is not heavy, like in lie or low, but light, like in lumière or l'amour. Islam, say it softly. It means in Arabic surrender. That's just my name, a starting point. Please join me and wonder what else we don't know about each other. That's the
Wow.
yeah. The last chapter in the book says, and in the end, I hope that I did not offend. It's hard to always be poetically correct. So I miss my book. Thank you.
Wow, I think we should do a book club over here, Dr. Wid. There's so much to explore in this one. And I'm sure anyone listening to this is going to want to have a copy of this book. So we will make sure that we are putting it in the description, a link to purchase this book, So Many Hats or Veils.
Thank you so much, Wallah, for helping me revisit it.
Thank you. I also see this as it just revisiting it carries some emotional charge to it. So thank you for sharing that with me today. I want to go into this one chapter that you talked about, which brings up so many questions for me, especially that I see there's some sort of dissonance between how it is viewed in the modern world versus how it is viewed in Islam, and that is motherhood. I would love to go into what is motherhood in Islam.
Oh, it's a big question. Uh, okay, so I'm okay. I'll preface it by saying I'm not an expert in, I'm not a scholar in Islamic studies. So I'm speaking as a Muslim, as someone who has studied some Islamic studies since, grade one. Um, but my expertise is more in the psychology and psychiatry. But my understanding as a Muslim about motherhood, you know what? I feel like Islam did not, lecture or speak to mothers that much. And that in itself is a sign of what it is. I mean, in the Quran, we have a lot of speaking to men about treating women in divorce and other situations because the women are the vulnerable party. And there's a lot speaking to children about their parents because the older parents are the vulnerable party. But women tend to do okay by men. They don't need lectures. And mothers tend to do okay by their children. They don't need lectures. So if anything, the wasaya or the advice is not directed to women. I think it's a very modern thing across the globe. This kind of attachment parenting and 100 million schools of parenting and co-sleeping or not, exclusive breastfeeding or not. Even the whole movement of breast is best, yes, for who and in what situation. So motherhood, I guess, it's a form of being a parent, and it should not be so separate from fatherhood. Like if you think of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, they used to say, "Kana fi sha'ni ahli baytih." He was always doing what his household was doing. So if he entered and they were baking, he was baking. And if they were cleaning, he was cleaning. And if they were parenting, he was probably parenting, you know? So there's this book, I can't recall the author, but it's called The Anthropology of Childhood. And it's an academic book where the writer researches childhood in different places, okay? And he highlights that modern Western childhoods and parenting are a new phenomenon, new and modern currently in time, and also not generalizable to other countries and space. And there's nothing to say that the outcome or the children of modern parenting do any better, and I would say are possibly worse off in many things than those of earlier times or other countries. So he'll say, look, places in Africa, after 2, 3 years, the child is let loose to run in the fields with their siblings because we have moved on to another baby, right? And in this place, there's a rite of passage that happens as 10, where the child has to kill its first lamb, which we would think is like, it's so traumatic. But the children of first world countries are not less resilient. And there's also one of the person was reviewing the book, and he's writing that here in America we play with cars on the carpet. It's just a thing we do. There are so many societies who have no time for the luxury of playing with their kids, and it's fine. So just the idea that parenting, like everything else currently, there's such an abundance of information in 100 different directions, and it doesn't have to be like that. I think in Islam it's much, much, much more simple.
Hmm. It's interesting you say that because in today's world, the mother has a lot of guilt.
Yes.
And well, I'm living in today's world, so I don't have any data to say if this was always the case. But I'm curious to know, w- how does guilt fit into your work?
Oh, guilt is present every day in the clinic. I think a large part of it is our inherited culture and upbringing. So any young mother right now, so you have a first time mom, okay? Perfectionism is coming from her own parents, from the religious talk about be careful, having kind of a God image that is harsh and exacting. From social media, who shows you beautiful parents who are doing their makeup routine in the morning and have perfectly coiffed children. From the 100 parenting books that tell you what to do. It's so hard. And everybody thinks they should tell you what to do. Like, even the decision to not breastfeed is not yours. Like, you're going to be shamed for it in the hospital by the nurses. So I can understand where it's coming from. Now, the idea is, how can we teach women that they need not accept this external pressure or inherited programs? That's one thing. Now, guilt is a good emotion. Okay, shame is not. And people don't often don't discern between both. So guilt means I yelled at my kids. It's an, and then I sit with myself and I say, "Wid, that was not your best moment. That action is not aligned with the characteristics that you want to embody. There's an action that can be taken. I can say, Astaghfirullah. I ask God for forgiveness, and then I go to my child and I repair. And I do not assassinate myself. I do not, I don't say you're a bad mother and go into shame. The spiral of you're a bad mother, you're going to screw up your kids forever, etc. Um, Shame is that kind of voice that says you're terrible, you're causing damage, and you go against yourself. Which brings us to like the Islamic understanding. We always hear about an-nafs al-lawwama, which is the reproaching self or the blaming self. And this has been like valorized and beautified, but in a misunderstood way, I think, in our Islamic teachings currently. So people don't differentiate between guilt and shame, and they go into shame actually. Now, my understanding from Islamic psychology of this nafs lawama is it's just supposed to make you not a sociopath. A sociopath tortures cats and feels nothing. Okay, so it's good that you feel something, but it's only to course correct. So, one analogy I use with my clients and patients is it's really good to have a smoke detector. But if it turns on for no reason, or it turns on because there's just incense or bukhur, you turn it off. You say, thank you for working. There is no emergency. It's only good if action needs to be taken. But if it is ringing all the time, I can no longer talk to you. I can no longer meditate. I can no longer enjoy my meal. It's become a tyrant. So that's how it should be. And so, say right now, I start to feel guilty, like, oh, I should be picking my daughter up from school. I'll sit with myself. Like, I've done this so many times. Like, okay, shall we just stop the podcast recording? Like, is there really an action to be taken? Or have we already thought this through? We've thought this through. There's no new data. So I'm going to finish the podcast or the clinic or my girl vacation with my girlfriends because we've already decided that this is what balance looks like. And look, like the best things you can do for your children is to take care of yourself, and to model to them what, especially if you have a daughter, it's easier to think of this. What type of mother do you want her to be? Like, do you want her to be the self sacrificing mother, or do you want her to grow up knowing, oh, girl trips are okay? You know, spa days are okay. Because the biggest predictor of how your child will turn out is the parents, and especially the same sex parents. So don't just, yes, she will do as you do, and he will do as you do, regardless of what you preach.
So many, so many, so many questions. And in fact, in this last 1 or 2 minutes, you touched upon so many things that I would love to double click on. And let's maybe start with the most recent one, right? Which is self-care, taking care of yourself. I have had many conversations where self-care is almost demonized because that means time away from your kids, and your kids are a trust to you. So, and how is our understanding of our children being entrusted to us kind of jeopardizing us as women and mothers?
Yes. Um, so I like the word entrusting, which brings up the Arabic word amana, which is the thing that was entrusted to you. Okay, so like if I give you my child and say, Kenza, I need to, I have an operation and I have to be in the hospital for 2 days, I'm entrusting my child to you. Okay. Uh, you will take such good care of her, right? Now, our children are entrusted to us, but before them, yourself is entrusted to you as the main amana. So Allah, when He says, إنا عرضنا الأمانة على السماوات والأرض والجبال, and then I'm not sure about the order of this. So the verse, فأشفقن منها وأبين أن يحملنها, or فأبين أن يحملنها وأشفقن منها وحملها الإنسان. So we showed the amana. Like it was like a, do you want to carry this? There was a consent, informed consent, the
Mm.
trust, capital T, to the mountains and the skies. And they said, no, it's too heavy. And they said, no, thank you, we will not go to earth as this human soul. But then the human said, I'll do it. You know, someone I know said, why did we do it? It's like such high risk, high reward. But I think it's actually not high risk. I think Allah has designed everything for our success. And I think that the souls that decided to go for it, us, are very brave, and how much must have had such love for Allah and curiosity that we would be willing, because we just want to know Him more. Because Allah made Adam from his soul and ala suratihi, in his form, whatever that means. So a tree or a mountain cannot know Allah's compassion as much as a human, nor an angel can know, because they don't taste the same suffering. Anyway, so your amana and my amana, the main number one that you're going to be asked about and entrusted is yourself, which is your heart, your soul. It's a child. It came to earth as a child. We abuse it so much. And we abuse it in the name of guilt and shame and nafs lawama, the blaming self. And so you cannot forget. So if I have 3 children, I say, okay, Wid is your fourth. And your most important child is the one who is currently going through something. So, first year of university, he'll take priority. Currently pregnant, if I'm pregnant, I'll take priority. So, not to forget that. And so, if all of your kids are getting their eyes checked and their ears checked and their dentist appointments done, yours too. So sometimes I say to clients, take care of the mother of your children. And you train your children upon this. You say, I'm going to have me time right now. But people will resist this. Nobody will applaud you for taking away what is given to them for free all the time. They'll whine and everything,
True.
but it's okay. Yeah. But it is, and it's no less important. Like this amana isn't yours to abuse. I mean,
Yeah, this is such an important reframe because you always think of what else was interested to you without ever realizing that you yourself are a trust.
yes, you are.
How does understanding that I am someone I need to take care of before I take care of someone else. It's almost like putting my own oxygen mask first.
Yes.
How have you seen in the people you work with, once they start taking care of themselves first, how does that change their life?
Oh, it's so important. So it's like you're a fountain that doesn't have any more water. So you need to stop squirting and giving water until the reservoir is filled. And then the first drops will fall center on yourself, and then you'll have more to give. Uh, so I think the mother sets the tone for the house. Okay. So if she's depressed, it is felt, and there's no shortcut. You have to treat that. Okay. And children, our children love us. Like you'll see, even babies are trying to make you laugh and are concerned and are performing to make you laugh. And then if they can't do it through being a clown, they'll do it through throwing a tantrum. So that is true in normal psychology, right? And oh, there's so much data about that. Like women who are in postpartum depression for more than 6 months, their children have behavioral problems sometimes. Okay, so worth treating. But it's also
Mm.
true in a not a physical only, but a metaphysical sense. So, for example, in Surah Al-Kahf, when it says وَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا, so chapter of the cave, when it says, and their father was a good man, Allah's talking about Allah taking care of not the children, but the seventh degree grandchildren of a good man. So his taking care of himself ensures care for offspring with Allah. And this ayah, يا أيها الذين آمنوا عليكم أنفسكم لا يضركم من ضل إذا اهتديتم. O those who believe, guard your souls. You are upon your souls. Like you, you take care of you. You will not be harmed by those who stray as long as you are in hidayah or you are guided. Um, so, and anyway, that is your locus of control. Like we have Prophet Noah could not make his son Muslim. And you cannot really make your teenager pray or do anything. Yes, perhaps when they are young, you can instill and you should, but your biggest method of installation is what they observe. So, children who eat with forks because their parents did, and children who eat with their hands do so because their parents did. There's no even intentionality.
Mm.
And so you focus on yourself and they will witness and it will overflow. It's it's actually it's a very efficient, I think, way of parenting. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Wade. This is so insightful, and I think every time that you're offering a take, it's almost a refreshing one for me because you're used to, especially through social media and in a world where we hear a lot more about Western, or let's say secular, parenting, where faith doesn't really play a big role. Everything that you're saying is, you can see from my expressions, landing really hard. You talked about God's image,
Yeah.
and God's image being a harsh one. And I have noticed this as well, right? We somehow forget about the qualities of Allah being Rahman, being Rahim, being Raqib, being Al Wali, and we go straight to punishment. We go
Mhm.
straight to, even to a child, to a little child, we go straight to God is going to punish you for that. And we instill this, as you said, a harsh image of God. I would love to explore that for a person who grew up, let's say, with a very harsh image of God. How do they instill in their child a loving relationship?
Yeah. Mm. Okay. Well, I would say to that person, let's say they're listening, is first of all, you're in really good company across the globe with fellow Muslims and fellow Christians and Jews and other religions, because the flavor of harsh religion and harsh God image can be found across cultures and religions. Okay. So, first, you're in good company. Second, even though it's not fair what happened to you, it's still your responsibility. That nobody's coming to save you. Okay. So, you cannot, no, you're an adult now. You can no longer outsource this. So, you have to do the healing yourself. Now, we're gonna re-emphasize the point of you will the limit to which you can convey a soft, kind, merciful God image to your children. The ceiling is limited by how much you can convey it to yourself. So the teaching of them and your child self must happen in parallel. You can't skip. Like you can say to them night and day, Allah is Rahman Rahim, merciful, and yet they see how harsh you are with yourself for making a mistake, and what they see will be strong. But then it's okay. Allah knows that all of the current parents on earth are parents in the making. He designed it that way. So it's okay. And He knows what's happening with the children and He's taking care of them. So Allah has His own relationship with the children that bypasses you. You're not that powerful. Okay. Now, for people who want to go deeper, there is this institute called Yaqeen Institute, and maybe we could share the link to their study that I'm going to reference now. It's called Belief in Divine Love, Discovering Spiritual Attachment Styles. It's so beautifully designed, and it was done on a Muslim population, okay, where they looked at so many things, including uh, how people were brought up in terms of their attachment to their parents. Were their parents merciful and kind or not? How is their attachment with their own parents? Was the content of what they heard about Allah from parents and from the mosques merciful or not? And then their God image. Do they see Allah as merciful or not? And their attachment style with God. Can you imagine, like, so this is a real relationship. Some relationships were securely attached. So, Kanza, I know if I call you, I'll find you. I know if we make a mistake, I can repair, secure. And some are anxious, like, I'm always wondering where you are. And, if you don't call me back in 2 minutes, it's the end of the relationship. And there's avoidant, which is, I am afraid it's the end of the relationship, so I'm going to avoid you. Like, can you imagine how many Muslims stand on the prayer mat and suddenly become restless and need this prayer to finish because, in fact, they are anxiously avoiding Allah because He's so scary in their minds? Like, it's like such mercy. Like, so imagine you had a little kitten that is traumatized, but knows it needs to show up for you and come close, but it's traumatized. So it avoids eye contact and takes us. How would you feel knowing its history? And so I wonder how much mercy Allah feels for His children. They might be 40 years old, but Allah, they're His children who are unable to show up because of trauma. And He understands the nervous system settings and attachment styles, but we are so harsh. And then we're also like, we finish the prayer and say, Allah is not going to accept my prayer. I am terrible. I'm going to hell. And so what they found in the study is there's like these beautiful correlations. If you had the good parents, merciful parents, if the content of what was said to you about Allah was good, you will have a secure attachment with your parents, with Allah, and a good opinion of yourself and a good image of Allah. It's like, it's all good. I'm probably fine and going to heaven, inshallah. I'm trying. Allah is not a policeman sending tickets to everyone. He wants us to succeed, which Allah explicitly says. يريد الله أن يتوب عليكم. Allah wants to give you forgiveness. يريد الله أن يخفف عنكم. Allah wants to make things easy. Even if you're going to go transactionally, He made it so easy. Like, if you do one good deed, you get 10 points. If you do one bad deed, you get 1. If you intend a bad deed and you don't do it, it doesn't count. If you intend a good deed and you don't do it, it'll count. Oh, it's like the game is rigged in our favor. But that's not what's emphasized. But we need to emphasize it. Like you can spend a few days being angry about your upbringing, but خلاص, move on, and try to build your own new relationship with Allah and correct the God image.
It's so interesting that for you to provide this loving, merciful God image to your kids, you need to have that loving, kind God image yourself.
Yeah, and it's like a cascade. So let's say again we go to the situation where I yell at my children or they see that I forgot to pray asr or whatever. Now if I say, oh, I forgot to pray, okay, let's pause the movie, and I just say astaghfirullah and I move on. This can't be faked. Okay, so I have to have done the work of, Allah is merciful. They have to see the non-panic, and they have to see me forgive myself, and it's going to be really easy for me to forgive them too. Like it's the same system, it's the same software. And the cascade is like one of the teaching is uh the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, peace be upon him, says, تخلقوا بأخلاق الله, take on God's attributes and characteristics. And we're supposed to do that for all of his names except some, like Al-Qahhar, the Compeller, Al-Jabbar. Although we can take a little bit of Al-Jabbar, which means the one who heals wounds. And then, okay, so what does that look like in human form? The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, إِنَّكَ لَعَلَى خُلُقٍ عَظِيمٍ, Allah says, you are of perfect character. So Allah's attributes embodied in human's form is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we've seen him as a father, like in direct fatherhood, like how he is with Fatima and Ibrahim, and in how he parented everyone. So when he goes to the boy named Umair whose bird died, hey, this is a prophet who has so many people against him wanting to kill him. And he goes and he sits on a doorstep and says, Ya Umair, ماذا فعل النغير? What happened to your bird? He knows what happened. But he's inviting him to tell him the story and to witness his grief. How Fatima, and here's like, this is how we treat women. When she comes in, he stands up. And there are men sitting. He stands up, goes to her, kisses her forehead, and gives her his seat. That's a dad. And that builds like character for the child and for the woman. And so that's I don't know how I got to this, but I think talking about the whole cascade. And it's a journey. Like don't become harsh with yourself because you are harsh. I mean, you set the intention of becoming more merciful and knowing Allah more, and it's a lifelong journey, and we're all going to يعني, die without reaching. You don't really reach, you just die on the path. That's the best you can hope for.
True. The more you speak about the God's image, the more you speak about examples from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's life, the more I'm thinking that today there's a lot of emphasis on doing and very little on actually being.
Mhm.
And the more I hear from you, most of the emphasis is on being because that automatically translates to doing.
Exactly. So, like Al Ghazali, one of the big scholars in Islam, says like the heart is the king or the queen, and Al Jawarih, the limbs, are the servants. So the orders come from here, and the quality of the thing comes from here, from the heart. And Islam is on the wazn of if'al, like it means surrender, and it's a state. There's no real action in it. And Islam is to constantly be in surrender to the moment. And the moment might be my child just came back with a new piercing or a tattoo or one catastrophe or another. Right. Not that these are the biggest catastrophes, but let's keep things light. And you have to like take a breath. And I remember like asking one of my supervisors, She's a psychiatrist, and she was older, like in her maybe late 60s, and really vital. And it was so funny how, whenever she would come back to the office, she'd find calls from her children, adult children, and text saying, "Mom, you don't call us back." And I said, "What is the secret? Like, why are they the ones calling you?" She said, "Well, whatever they did, I always took a breath." And so they knew they could confess anything. What was your question? I feel like I've strayed off.
No, we were talking about the being and then the doing, kind of
Being,
coming out of the being, really.
being, right. So if you can be a safe, non-judgmental, calm, merciful person, they will come. It's so attractive. And it is calming, like that you have a radius of effect. You know, there are people, they come into the room and things change. No, there's
Yeah.
conflict and someone comes in and the temperature changes. That's a state, and you are trying to cultivate that. And that is who you are. That stays with you. So that's when you die, that refinement of the soul carries on. Like, you could also think about the whole arc of life as we were souls, but we were, how do we say, kham? We were crude, like crude oil, okay? And you need to be dipped in the trials and fire of life for processing. But we're not all gonna, like, some of us are working on ourselves the whole time. And to the degree that you work on your character refinement or the quality of your heart to know yourself and Allah, is the degree that you will be able to have a blast in Jannah. Okay, so your heart now here sees truth. You will see truth, al-haq, Allah, more clearly in Jannah, which will change your experience in heaven. You didn't really work on seeing, you kind of see, but it's not 2020. Great. But also, and you see this even here, like someone who is of a refined character, a cultured, educated person can really enjoy a sunset or a film in a different way from someone who's like so living like in the base materialistic pleasure qualities. Um, yeah,
True.
so
It's
it is
like
all about
cleaning
being.
cleaning the lens.
Yes. Are you polishing or not? And this is the thing. If you're polishing proactively, things go gently. If you aren't, Allah sometimes sends you things that help the polishing, but it can be a bit more jarring. And we just need to cooperate with the process for the smoothest life. But you know, it has to kind of, there has to be some pain in it, sadly.
Mm. Mm. Dr. Wade, you work with many people, particularly mothers from all parts of the world, really. I'm curious, what are some of the biggest challenges parents face today? And what are some of the Islamic principles that you would love to leave our listeners with?
Okay. Challenge. I would say shame, like that's the biggest one. And the antidote that Islam supports is empathy. So shame comes in isolation. So I think I'm the only one who doesn't like my baby. I don't know. Sometimes takes time. Now, empathy, which means I'm going to be brave, I'm going to share with someone else in order to discover that, oh, 40% of the women in the women's group also have this feeling and it's fine. Then it like empathy is like light, you shine it, then the darkness of shame goes away. So I think sadly, you know, the kind of nuclear family and the separation of the modern world, the pressures of working has isolated mothers need mothering. And if we can't get it from our mothers and aunties, then maybe communities. And there are some uh you know, countries, I'm not sure if it was Norway or the Netherlands, where automatically in a woman's care plan after delivery, she's connected to a mommy group officially. This prolongs life. This is like so good. So you need some sort of sisterhood. Um, so yeah, the challenge of perfectionism, isolation, and shame. Like it's like a very bad petri dish for spiraling down and away. and losing herself, like thinking that now that you are a mother, past you must be obliterated and sacrificed, which is like the worst thing you can do. And so Islamic principles, so Tawheed, which is unity, is like such a beautiful value in Islam. And when I feel pulled in a million directions, each hat is telling me to turn a little bit to the right or to the left. I try to activate this. It's like, okay, wait, one God. And this is the vertical dimension, not the horizontal that's pulling me. I am responsible to Allah with this amana, nobody else. Okay, we're in a cylinder here. Okay. How would Allah rank order priorities currently? I need to triage. It's like you're in the ER and there's 100 patients. The person with the cold is not going to get my attention. And then you let go of the rest. So, unity, rank ordering. And if you find, as you try and say, I guess to be in right position with this moment, I sleep and allow someone to give my baby a bottle. If that's what happens in your calculations, you just do it because it's not your right to abuse this amana. It isn't yours. And it's a very short حبل يعني you're going to pay for it soon. You have to do right by everyone. So there's this beautiful question I learned from a friend, which is what would love do? Capital L love. So I think of Al Wadud. Now, that there's a criteria, which is it must include you amongst everyone else in the equation. So you have to zoom out and say, what would Allah want for this family, including me? Because sometimes that means I need to say no and cannot have this sixth child that my husband wants because I no longer have any, calcium reserves or mental reserves, or I get depressed every time. Sometimes it's no. My first child, I could breastfeed for 2 years, and this one I can't. It's different. And yeah, so I think unity and knowing that check your definitions of motherhood and parenting, and says who? Oh, who says? And what is the marja'? What is the reference? And can I trace it back to Allah and the Prophet? Subhanahu wa ta'ala and peace be upon respectively. Or this is a cultural thing. Now here's the thing. Culture, old or modern, is we respect it and we'll be wise in interacting with it, but it is not a Quran, it is not a Bible. And Allah actually says, وَإِن تُطِعْ أَكْثَرَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ يُضِلُّكَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. And if you listen to most of the people on earth, they will lead you astray. Allah often says, وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. But most people don't know. All prophets are actually individuals or small groups against the norm. True. And the Prophet says, heaven is for the strangers or the strange strangers. طُبَرَ الْغُرَبَاء. So this is the thing. If you find yourself being weird or different or hacking a different path in the woods, you actually might be onto something. And that's it. And then if you make it, just take care of the other mothers around you and the other women. And for the men, like to have curious men who are listening and realizing that, just knowing that they don't know, and wondering what it's like to be on earth, a soul, but in a female human experience, is so healing. To have a man who listens with this reverence and respect and curiosity, and actually doing the qawama role of taking care. And so how can I be a backbone here? How can I be a protector and a provider here as you go through all of these things? And that's it.
I love that. Thank you so much, Dr. Wade. Everything that we have talked of in this last 1 hour almost has really hit home. And the more we speak, the more I realize that today many of the things that we do are informed by social media in particular, especially when it's a nuclear family living away from most of the relatives or loved ones. It's a social media informed life, and
Mhm.
in many ways it's a social media informed parenting style as well. So there is, as you said, a lot of information coming in. It's about what do you do with that information? Do you kind of verify where this is coming from? How does it benefit me or my child? Or how, and in fact, am I able to trace its roots back to the Islamic way of life? Or is it something I just need to get away from in the moment?
Yeah, I think I would generally decrease input because there's
Mm.
so much out there that is so low yield. Okay, like you're sifting through the rubble for gold. If you find one scholar that you love, and especially like if it's a podcast or a book by someone you already know and trust already. So like in Saudi here, we know like Hiba Hariri is a colleague of mine. You know, everything she says is relevant uh, and tested. And she has a PhD in psychology. Go for it. But don't just buy any random parenting book. Just you're better off going with your instinct and then researching specific things as needed. Um, there's this beautiful poem on children by Khalil Gibran. It's called On Children. It says, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you, for life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday." It goes on. "You are the bows from which your children, as living arrows, are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he, it's a capital H, bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness, for even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable." Is this releasing? Wallah, they're not yours. They come, they have their personalities, they have their programming, they have their temperaments. Like, I didn't want her to be interested in fashion or him to become an astronaut and leave me and go so far to the moon. But that's what apparently is happening. And our job is not to program them like an engineer, it's to cultivate like a gardener. Apparently, you got a papaya or a purple, flower. You don't have that much control. You just, provide the basics. Is there water and sun and soil and shelter? And you research as needed. Otherwise, the seed will take care of itself. Yeah.
Wow. It also beautifully ends with tawakkul, right? Which was kind of a thread all along this conversation.
Yes. So thank God for tawakkul and the idea of reliance upon Allah and remembering you're not that powerful. Yes, we take action to be polite with Allah. Like, because it's ridiculous to say I'm thirsty, but I'm not going to reach for the glass of water. But your thirst is resolved by Him. And it's the same thing. I tell my children to wear their seatbelt, but it's not really protecting them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Wade. How fitting that we ended this conversation with a poem from Khalil Gibran, and we started with poems written by you. So thank you so much for this very enlightening conversation.
Thank you so much for having me and for being such a structured yet flexible, beautiful, safe container to help, the things in me sort of, come out in a way that I hope is helpful and entertaining and useful to the audience.
And that brings us to the end of a really thoughtful and grounding conversation with Dr. Wid Kattan. From motherhood and guilt to self care to the powerful idea that we teach our children more through who we are instead of what we say or teach, there's just so much to reflect on. We'll be sharing all the useful links in the description, including the link to Dr. Wid's book, So Many Hats or Veils. If this conversation resonated with you, please subscribe and share this episode with others. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next conversation.